Happy Friday. Welcome to episode 75 of The Weekender. You'll notice that my usual host is not here, and so filling in for him is Mr. Tom. And we have a very, very special guest. We have Dave Tina Sr., owner of Urban Nest, joining us. And we're going to talk to Dave about his time as our RVP and longtime Las Vegas realtor. How are you, Dave?
I'm great today. I'm out eating lunch again. I got my shots. I feel strange going out again.
Have you had both of them?
Both, and 2 weeks in between.
Did you get sick at all or have any side effects?
No, I did not.
Yeah, my mom got her first shot last week and had some pretty bad side effects that she's getting over, but she's doing well now. But Tom, have you had yours yet?
No, I had COVID.
You just had the side effects,
right? So I had COVID, and it wasn't that bad. So I'm waiting. I'll wait for a little bit longer. I don't really feel the need to jump out there and do it. I'm pretty healthy, and it's all good.
Well, you got the antibodies, so you'll be good, Tom.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yep.
Hey, Dave. So thanks for joining us. I really wanted to talk to you today a little bit about your service to our association and how you got involved, and number one, what led you to get involved at the association to begin with?
Oh boy, this is a great question from the son of the mother that hit me in the arm a million times 12 years ago and said, "Hey Dave, you're very successful and you give nothing back in money," I'm going to say this honest, "or in time." So I said, "I didn't know." And your mom, Patty, said, "Here's what you do. Here's how you volunteer." I found myself on the board, then president of state, and then a million committee chairs, and then RVP. So it was all due to your mother making me feel guilty.
Wow. So your story's similar to ours. Hey, when you started out, I mean, I had the honor of serving on the board with you, and Tom did as well, I believe. And did you have any inclination that you were going to run for board president or any of that when you started?
No, not at all. I figured I'd do my gig and walk away.
What made you decide to do it? I'm curious because I ask each president this. Why did you decide to run for the board president?
The reason for me is because I wanted to do a little change, and I felt the only way I could get that change to succeed was to lead the people into it. And I think we did get a lot of change, and a lot of people talk, and talk is cheap. I always felt that way. I'm a guy that I always put myself where my mouth is. So if I'm going to say I don't like what's going on, then I'm going to work myself to fix it. I'm not going to be that guy in the back room saying, "Oh, this stinks," and do nothing about it. Not me.
So you definitely you got in, you ran within your first, what was it, 3 years, and won your election.
No, two. By the time I won, I was 2 years in.
Wow, that's awesome.
I was older than you guys.
Board meetings.
Yeah, I was older than you guys, so I had to go fast.
And so after you served at LVR, that they're calling it now, and you moved through and you got onto the state level, what made you decide to run for RVP? And we'll talk a little bit about what RVP really is, but what made you decide to run for that after serving as state president?
I'm a person that believes in doing your work and moving on and not be second guessing. So I went on the local level, I went on the state level, and next was to go to national and see what would happen there. I can tell you guys the most rewarding is the local level, because your hands are so in there and you have so much to accomplish that was definitely my most exciting time.
Sure. Yep. And for those watching, RVP is a pretty special term. There's only, 13 of them at any given time throughout the year. And so it's a regional vice president for the National Association of Realtors.
Right, so there's 13 out of 1.4 million realtors in the United States.
It is a one-year term, thank God. And usually the RVP is required to travel to all of the states. And Dave, you're the first RVP ever, just like many of us state presidents at that time and local presidents, that were able to actually make it work virtually. How did you get that done?
Well, there's a little distinction that the three people on the screen had. Steve, Chris, you as state president, me as national RVP, and Tom as LVR. We were presidents that could not travel, and you became a Zoom expert. You learned how to call and speak in every way you could, and I zoomed into a new world, and NAR did a great job of doing business they had to do through Zoom. And we all did the best we could and got about what work we had to do. Would I prefer to be at all those meetings and all that training I took through NAR? Yes. But the way I feel is that we have the RVP for this year booked in March. And I laughed at him and said, "You're never going to have your conference in March." But he rebooked in June, July. So we're all going. So July will be in Denver, and in November we'll be in San Diego. So it's making up. It's taking time. The great news is they just said today, anyone that wants a shot could have it in their arm by May. So I'm just looking forward to May on and doing everything we can.
So Dave, while you're doing all of this, I mean, you're a company owner. You've been in town many, many years, and you were running your company with your son, and we have it in common. I mean, in your family, you guys get involved in the board together. In my family, it's the same way. Tom's wife is more involved than he is. But the whole thing is you really made it a family business and a family career. How did your son deal with you being RVP for a year during this pandemic?
Well, he took it in stride because, as you know, he was president too. Yep. So he knew the commitment. I think he's more shocked with the commitment that I'm being as chair of the legislative committee. Yeah. That is becoming much, much more than he thought I was going to do.
Sure. So Tom and I thought it would be great having you on as well, because you are the legislative chair currently for Nevada Realtors, which, other than being president, is probably the most important position during a legislative year. And so you took that on last year with everything else you had on your plate. It's a 2-year commitment. And so tell us a little bit about, how it's been being legislative chair so far during the session.
First of all, there's a ton of bills to read. And next thing is there's a lot of panic in the air, and we all three hear from all our members. But the procedure involved is when we have a call for action, that half of these bills die on the vine. So we do have Carrera, and Rocky and Jenny are some of the best people out there. So before we jump off the roof, we need to read the bills. As members, read the Advocate. It comes every week. And know that half of those crazy bills are not going to make it. And when we do need you, we'll do a call for action to help. Or, like yesterday, I testified as the chair, and Tom testified as someone of the public, but on the legislative. That's how we get it done. And the general public, if they go through Carrera and through the state, they could testify too. So there's going to come a time we want all the help we can, but we have to be careful on Facebook not to hurt ourselves by publishing stuff that would affect what Rocky and Jenny at Carrera are doing. So go ahead.
And what I want to let everybody know is that there's a process that these bills have to go through. There's so many steps that we can get our hands in there and make things happen. When a bill's introduced, everybody gets all in an uproar, but it still has to go to committee. The committee has to be talked about it, and so then it's got to be passed through committee, back to the floor of the assembly, and then the assembly's got to vote on it. And then it goes back to the Senate, and the Senate's got to pass it to committee, and it can be killed there, and then that committee then has to talk about it, and it gets manipulated again, and then it's got to get through that committee. And there's so many places where it can get killed that the process just needs to be worked, and it works. Last session proves that. It wasn't until like the very end of the session, the very minutes before the session ended, that they were able to finagle some stuff. But right now it's a great thing. We do have a call of action right now for SB 141 to put your opinion in it, to oppose it. You can go on my Facebook post, Vonna's Facebook post, to go get the information on there. So do that, but relax. It'll be okay. But do your oppositions when we ask.
So Dave, talk a little bit about, after all of that, it's like, no wonder his board meetings were so long. He's harder than the state committees. The whole thing is, getting a bill passed and going through this process is something that we prepare for and for years. I mean, several decades, I think, right, Tom? We've gone through this process as Nevada Realtors, and now you as the legislative chair are testifying on these bills. How did it go? Were you nervous about it? Were you excited about it? How'd you prepare for it?
I listened closely. I wrote what I was going to say, and a lot of us repeated what we were going to say, that we're in opposition. And I felt they were open-minded enough that if you asked me, is 141 a done deal, I'd say no. I'd say they're going to listen. They're going to change some things. One of the things was sealing all evictions. Well, we're a reasonable crowd. If your eviction was due to COVID, we don't want that to follow you for the rest of your life.
Sure.
But there's a form you fill out. And if you didn't fill out the form or didn't bother, or you are working and you just want to fill it out and then don't pay your rent, well, that's taking advantage of us. So we are very well trying to be fair. And a lot of people don't realize we represent the realtors and we represent the public. So nothing we do in there is trying to hurt the public. We want to help the public in a very reasonable way, and we don't want unintended consequences of people doing bills and then putting both the public and the realtor in danger.
Absolutely. And Dave, Tom and I were talking about it earlier, and during the foreclosure crisis, and you remember how crazy that market was. I mean, pretty much everybody was affected by some type of short sale or foreclosure, and that was 80% of the nation, and we didn't, definitely count those records. And so now with the pandemic, I think you're right. I think everyone's understanding of it's affected all of us. Something we were all afraid of.
And we all want to help. We want to help, but we want to help where. Let's also remember the landlords. I tried giving that example and it wasn't well received. So the landlord has one house the tenant's paying, the other one they're not. Well, the money he's getting for the one house barely pays the mortgage, and then the other house he's going to lose. Yeah. So we have to be careful that we protect on that side, both sides of the equation. And with the landlords selling their properties now because they're getting aggravated, the only thing we're doing is taking the pool of rentals and shrinking it. Yeah. So you're not going to be able to rent a house. You're going to have to go in an apartment building. And if you have 3 kids and a dog, you're going to want a backyard. So again, that will be an unintended consequence if we make it one-sided. And those people that want to live in a house with their children aren't going to be able to get a house because they're all going to be sold house with homeowners, not with rental landlords. So we have to be careful.
And they keep talking about homelessness. Well, we want to make sure we don't put these people to become homeless, but they're pushing that fact of homelessness on the backs of landlords. They're not coming up with an answer themselves of what other opportunity is there other than the landlords have to take these people and keep them in there, which I think is unfair.
Yeah.
The problem today is with the COVID, we're getting there. I mean, things are opening again. Yeah. I went out to lunch. It was busy. I went out to dinner one time. We're getting there. It hurts everyone. There's not as much money in our economy in the state. So we're looking for quick solutions. I believe in a slow solution, a common sense solution that won't hurt us 6 months from now when we're bounding back. And that's all I ask for. You know.
Great points. Yep. Great points. Well, Dave, you mentioned it before, but this was the hierarchy of this group for the 2020 session. We had Tom running Las Vegas Realtors. I was there at the state, and you were our RVP providing support from NAR. And so, you know, it was amazing to me how many times we talked and how many times that, you know, one thing that happened on a local level in a state affected all of us together. And so really appreciate you, and we appreciate the service that you gave to Nevada Realtors everywhere and to the region. So thank you for being who you are and great guy that you are.
Thank you. I'm not done yet. I still got more. I'm federal political coordinator, and I enjoy that for Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. We had a meeting with 8 of us with her, and she's definitely a fan and supporter of real estate and realtors in this state. And we got a lot to do. And I thank you two for volunteering your time away from your family, away from your business, and doing this job. A lot of people see the glory to it, and they don't see us getting up. Like I got up yesterday at 6:30, and I went from Zoom call to a legislative meeting, back in, and then another meeting at 3 o'clock. So I thank you two too for volunteering and being a part of it the whole time.
Yeah, well, the best part of it was meeting you guys, and
Yep.
I'm appreciative of that. And so for all of you out there, thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and we'll see you on episode 76.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I feel the change coming, it's closer every day. I feel the waters rising.